Hello and welcome to Your Average Bear Gaming. I am still George, and today I wanted to tackle a project that was going to be quick, it was going to be easy, and it was going to be looking good, but also something that I had already bought and I hadn't gotten around to. So let's reduce my pile of shame by taking care of Yvraine. She is the commander of the Ynnari forces, and she looks fantastic. I am not looking forward to all this cape. But let's make it quick, let's make it decent looking, and let's make it right now. So let's talk about the plan for this model, Yvraine. I've just given her a prime of flat black with a zenithal highlight of white, and I gotta say, she looks beautiful. This is a gorgeous model. I don't think I've held a model that's quite like this since I've started Warhammer 40k. Well, since I restarted, well, no, ever in my 40k experience. This is just, she's delicate, she's graceful, she's breathtaking. It is amazing. The build was really straightforward, except for the hair. The hair was in 3 pieces, and it was a little tougher to do than I expected, but it's a great model to put together. It's a lot of fun. The pieces are a little spindly, and there wasn't a whole lot of flashing except for the crown. The way it comes, where it joins the sprue, it's a little tricky, and I wasn't able to get it off clean because the part is so delicate. But you really can't tell from looking at her, so I think that's going to be fine. And in fact, the model was so pretty, and as I had this long carriage, like this dress thing that she's wearing, that I decided I needed to really dress up the base a little bit more than my usual. And so I have this piece. It's like a catwalk from the Octavius box kit for Kill Team. It was kind of an extra piece that I wasn't really going to use, and I thought, you know what, this model would be great standing on it, and gives it a little bit of extra height, and it even gives it a little bit of a slant, like a little bit of a. She's pointing upwards, right? She's elevated relative to the rest of the model, the rest of the base. So I think this is going to be a great project. In fact, I'm kind of scared that I'm not going to be able to do it justice. I'm going to try, while still adhering to most of the quick painting kind of principles. That is, Basecoat Glaze, washes, and then some detailing. But I don't know that I'm going to be able to get away from a dash of dry brushing, a dash of glazing, and maybe some freehanding. We notice this little kitty here. I'm sure the cat has a name, but it's Cringer. It's going to be Cringer, and so I'm gonna have to do some free-handed stripes. If I don't make this as Cringer, I just don't think I can forgive myself. So, the plan is to keep the same kind of color scheme that I use with the Vizark. That is mostly red, purple accents, and the details kind of here and there. So the dress is going to be red with some purple accents. I'm not quite sure where the purple is going to go, but I'm probably going to end up doing some purple glazing in certain spots. There's like a corset. I don't know. It's not a corset. There's these things at the hips. I'm not sure what they're called. Some kind of fabric. Those are going to be some like off-white or maybe white. I'm not sure entirely. I'm thinking bone white for that corset, that armor plate that she's got there. For her skin tone, I'm thinking something a little darker because I want to do kind of a white face, and I don't mean like Caucasian white, I mean like legit white. This model has like this Japanese flavor going for it, and so I kind of want to emulate the geisha kind of a look. I hope that's not racially insensitive, but yeah, kind of the white powdered face with some really like pronounced makeup effects. I'm gonna give that a shot. I'm sure I'm gonna fail miserably. So maybe the accents, like these ribbons, will be purple. Maybe her hair, it's probably what I'm gonna do, purple. So yeah, that's the plan. As for the kitty cat, as far as Cringer goes, so Cringer is green, and so, but I don't want to make him actually green, so I'll probably go with the teal, so it's kind of green-like, and then I'll have the orange stripes kind of going vertically down his body. I'll have to look at some reference material to see how I can make him a little bit more battle catty. The base, it's just going to be metal and wood. This stuff I'll probably keep gray. In here, I've made it so, I've sculpted it so it looks like it's stone, and so that'll be a dark stone color. That is the plan for this gorgeous, gorgeous model. Here's hoping that I can do it something resembling justice. I divided up the base coat glaze portion of this project into basically three steps. So the first step is to add the primary color, and I selected what's becoming one of my favorite reds. This guy, it's Glistening Blood by Army Painter. It is technically an effects paint, but it is a nice dark red shade. It's a little darker than Dragon Red, which is kind of the other dark red that I've got, but I've just really liked the way this looks, particularly as a glaze. It has a very nice effect, so that's what I went with. The kind of the carriage portion of the dress got a kind of a medium bodied glaze of this. A couple of other elements also got this. The feathers on the crown for Yvraine, and the belt that she's wearing that's kind of festooned with Aeldari jewels. That also got this red. And there's a couple of other details that I used. So it's basically my primary color. The second step of the base coat glaze portion is to add the purple, and the purple I use for this model is Xerius Purple by Citadel Color. It's a very nice shade of purple. I've worked with it a little bit, and it is, I think it has better coverage than the purples I have for my Army Painter kit, and it's looked pretty good. So I added this to a couple of elements. So her hair got that same kind of consistency, that medium-bodied glaze, and the ruffles on her hips. It's kind of like a wrap upon closer inspection. Also got a little bit of this color. In subsequent steps, I did add a little bit of a glaze of this purple over some parts of the red. So it's just a very, very dilute mixture of this very same purple. So I layered that out on top in just kind of some areas to kind of give it some contrast. But that's for us another step. The other two major colors that I used for the base coat glazing, these are for just kind of some of the smaller areas. So I used Skeleton Bone from Army Painter. I used this on the weapons, on the skin tone, little bits of the crown, so anything that I wanted to show up as either skin tone or wraith bone. I use this color. It's a pretty consistent performer for me. I rely on it quite a bit. Yeah, that's what I used. The other color in this step is Necromancer Cloak, also from Army Painter. I use this as my go-to recipe for black. because I rely on washes and subsequent steps to darken that color up. So I don't want to start with black. I want to start with a really dark gray, and Necromancer Cloak gets me there. And this I applied to... there's like a decorative panel element on the dress for this model, so I used this color there. It was also a medium-bodied glaze. I also added this for any elements of the model that were going to end up being black or near black. So it's often my undercoat for anything that's going to be metallic. So yeah, anything that needs to be darkened up, I used this shade as my base coat, and then I added things to that layer later on. Well, the basing is done, and she looks pretty glamorous, if you ask me. Here she is, really colorful. More colorful than I usually do, but it's looking pretty good. It's just a base coat glaze, but I was able to establish the beginnings of some shadows and some highlights, and there's some decent midtones there. I was thinking about the dress, but also the purple. I went with purple instead of the white for those hip things. I kept the purple for the ribbons here, as they seem to be part of that hip thing. It's like a belt. It's wrapped up. It looks nice. And her hair is purple as well. And in later stages, I will differentiate between the purple hair and the purple cloth with some washes and some highlights. But she looks pretty good. I've given her that dark skin, and I've painted her weapons. The sword I wanted to be reminiscent of bone, because I was thinking this would be like a wraithbone weapon. And yeah, she was actually fairly straightforward to base. There was obviously some details that I have to worry about, but it came together pretty nicely. So we have a pretty good start. I'm liking my progress so far, and it hasn't taken very long. The next step in this process is to make this base coat really shine. And to do that, we use for the washes, I kept things pretty simple. I did want to make sure the creases were visible and those shadows were established, but I didn't want to bring the color of the model down too much. So I used what is quickly becoming my favorite dark wash, Nuln Oil by Citadel Color. I added this to most of the model, basically anything that was the dress or the anything that was purple or red. And so the idea there was to bring a hint of darkness, establish those shadows without changing the color of the model too much. For the skin tone and the bone, kind of the wraithbone parts, like the weapons, I went with Agrax Earthshade. It does basically the same thing as the Nuln Oil, but it does so while lending it a warmer tone. Very delicate, very nice wash. For the hair, I want to do something a little different. It'll be a wash of a different sort. I'm thinking maybe like a white wash to introduce some lighter colors to the hair, but I haven't decided yet. Let me think about that. So the washing is all done on this model, and she looks pretty good. I'm kind of impressed. It's a little desaturated, but I like the way she looks. Here is Yvraine after the washing step. Yeah, all the colors are pretty much where I want them. The wash looks good, but not too heavy. I'm really happy with the way she's looking. I did a few touch-ups here and there because the process was a little sloppy, and I really want to make sure this model looks really good. So I'm paying attention to all the little details, to the extent of my abilities anyway. So normally this would take me to this next step, right? Quick painting is all about a base coat glaze, a wash, and then some detailing. But in this case, I want to do an extra step. Now, if you're not interested in this next step, that's fine. You can advance to the next one. But I'm going to do a little bit of extra glazing. My goal here is to kind of combine the two colors. So we have red and we have purple, and they're very related colors. And so I want to bring a tinge of purple to the red and maybe a tinge of red to the purple. And I want to do this at the extremities. So you see the red of the dress. My hope is to add just a little bit of purple glaze, very, very thin, almost like a wash consistency, and do it kind of in an irregular pattern, kind of out here. As for the purple, I'm going to do the same thing at the extremities of any purple elements, not the hair. The hair, I'm going to treat that differently. So the cloth bits will have a touch of red at the extremities. Yeah, so it's not going to be like a wet blend where I'm going to do some highlights with wet blending. This is just kind of combining the two colors at the extremes. I'm hoping that works out pretty well because I don't want to ruin this progress that I have right now. But I do feel like experimenting a little bit, so let's see how that works out. Detailing. This is the next step in the process, and I usually skimp out on this step because I'm not really very good. I have very poor brush control and I have shaky hands. But this model kind of inspired me to kind of go above and beyond a little bit with the details. So I did my best. And what that represents for this model was kind of picking out the details on the kind of that lacy panel on the back of the dress. I outlined that in a very bright silver, and then I did some kind of uneven overbrushing, not dry brushing, on the pattern inside it. And so I went with an uneven, so some of those little lace embossed patterns, whatever you want to call them, some of them are really bright and some of them are not very bright. The idea there is to kind of emulate kind of light bouncing off of different areas. You know how if you look at like a metallic mesh, some of the metallic mesh reflects light more strongly than others depending on how it's aligned with your eyes and the sun, yada yada yada. That took us some time, and overbrushing really helped. It kept me from getting any of that silver metallic paint in the recesses where I didn't want it. Another part that I used overbrushing for was kind of some armor-ish looking panels on her shoulders and on her leg. It was a very light, very subtle overbrush with metallic silver just to kind of point out that they're there. I could have left them because they, when I did the base coat glaze, they were considerably lighter than this skin tone, and I could have just left them there, but I wanted to add a little sparkle, a little shine. There was a bunch of other little details, but the thing that I spent the most time with were the gems. Aeldari are lousy with gems, and this model was perhaps the lousiest with them. So I stuck with a single color. For my Aeldari, I picked out a light green for the kind of the soul gems, and so every one of these little gem pendants I picked out. So the usual process is you undercoat them in black or a really dark gray, and then you pick out the gem area with a light color, either a white or something off-white, just so that the color that you lay on top of it, the green in this case, ends up standing out. When that was dried, go back with some green tone. It's a wash from Army Painter to kind of give it some shape. It gives them some shadows kind of towards the bottom. And then I went back when that was all dry. I gave it a very light little dot of white on the tops of the gems, basically the side of the gem that faced the top. And then when that was all said and done, right after I gave the model the matte varnish, I went back and picked out all those little gems once again with some gloss coat, just to make sure that they have some sparkle. And in some cases, those gems are attached to the model's hair with some very fine silver wire. So I overbrushed there as well. I added a little bit more glazing here and there. And of course, Cringer, the Yvraine's friendly little cat there, also had some detailing, a little bit of freehanding of the patches of orange on him. So yeah, I spent a lot of time on this model, but I think it was a worthwhile effort, and it really helped me grow as a painter. I'm still not very good, but I'm better than I was before this project. At long last, I'm finally done. I spent quite a bit more time on the detailing of this model than I expected, but it's a really pretty model, and I just thought I'd give it just a good old try hard, and I think the results are pretty decent. Here she is. She looks pretty good. I spent, like I said, a lot of time on the details, and you can probably tell there's a lot of gems on this model. Part and parcel for Aeldar special characters. This one is no aberration from that, but she's got a wicked looking blade, she's got an awesome looking fan, and she's got like a bridal thing happening here with this dress. She's a really cool model, and I try to give her kind of like psychically glowing eyes without an airbrush. So this is just a light blue glaze. Part of it is because I didn't want to mess up her eyes, but I did want to make them kind of a special thing, and she is a psychic character, so the blue glowing eyes are appropriate for this model. I like the little detail there on her chest. It's a little bit, it's no dry brushing, that's overbrushing of the bone, the skeleton bone paint. I even did quite a bit of this filigree with metallic silver. I left it intentionally pretty bright so that it had a chance to shine. And so yeah, that was done with overbrushing as well. In fact, I didn't use any dry brushing really because this model was kind of small and I don't have any small dry brushes. So all the details you see picked out, including, for example, you see that little detail, it's kind of like an armor thing on her shin. There's one leg poking out of her dress. I did some overbrushing with some metallic silver. Same thing with that ankle bracelet. She's even got a toe ring in there. So yeah, like I said, I try-harded here, and I think it looks pretty good. Overall, though, I think the model is a little on the muted side. Part of it was by design. I wanted the model to be dark. She is a mistress of the one of the gods of death for the Eldar culture. So, she had to be menacing, but I did want her to be regal as well, so that's why I used those reds and the purples. Now, the purple kind of glazing, it didn't look like what was in my head. I don't know if I just didn't glaze well enough, or if just this purple doesn't show really well over the red. It's kind of a muddy thing. But I did kind of add a little bit of kind of a glazing, like a highlight over the ripples of the dress, so it's kind of a brighter shade of red. Yeah, so I tried a couple of techniques here that I hadn't tried before, or that I hadn't been successful with before, and I found some success. Nothing, brilliant, but just enough to make me think that I'm getting better. And of course, we can't not talk about Battlecat here. I love the turquoise color. I hadn't used it before in any meaningful way. and it really stands out. It's really, really nice, and it contrasts really nicely with the reds and purples of Yvraine's dress. And I posed the cat out in front of Yvraine because, you know, it's a cat, and cats will get in front of you and try to make you trip. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that is a trait of cats the universe over, including Aeldari cats. So, there we are. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with these results. And I hope that if you give it a shot, you give her a proper treatment. She is a gorgeous model. I am really happy with the way she looks. I hope you learned something today, and if you have any questions about the model, or if you would like to continue to receive videos like this one, consider giving this video a like, or my channel a subscribe. I, for one, would appreciate it. Battlecat would as well. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful afternoon, be nice to yourselves and each other. Peace.